I think we're ready to get started again. If you've written a sentence you've never said to a cop, please include that in your reading. And if you haven't signed up on the list but might have written something, we'll have a time at the end and you can contribute that. I'd like to read, to get us started, a poem by Terri Ann Carter, who's going to be a featured reader here coming up in March. And I just read her book, Day Moon Rising, and was attracted to this poem. She has done a lot of work with the Tabitha Foundation in Cambodia, building houses and doing other humanitarian work. And she's the chair of the Tabitha Foundation in Canada at the moment. And this is a poem about Cambodia, and specifically about a temple near Angkor Wat. One that I don't know how to say, but it's something like Bantiye Sre. Anybody know that temple? Bantiye Sre, and that's the title of this poem. Of all the temples in Angkor, and there must be at least 40, Bantiye Sre is my favorite. I imagine the fingers of women holding the implements to carve pink sandstone, quartz arenite, into small, delicate roses, trailing lintels, foliage, female dancers, perfect in proportions, their loosely draped skirts and heavy earrings almost moving in an intimate gesture toward friendship. This is a thing you need to touch, as though tapping these secrecies would breathe life into cold stone. A blessed mood erases the wasted fields, the blood-soaked earth of earlier roads. I am reminded of the Buddhist proverb, "The fallen flower never returns to the branch. The broken mirror never again reflects." I close my eyes to recall a favorite haiku. The falling flower I saw drift back to the branch was a butterfly. The chakra of my spine split open. That's Terri Ann Carter. Tonight's question of the month is your favorite winter beverage. And our first reader tonight is Deneen Monet, is that correct? And her favorite winter beverage is Soul Food's Chai Latte. Go Soul Food. Welcome, Deneen, and it's your first time here, right? Yeah. First time, Deneen.
Okay, so it's my first time here, first poetry reading, first poem spoken. so, thank you for bearing with me. I thought I'd start with the bar low, and then we can just move up from there, right? We were talking about that. But I also wanted to, you've heard of beginner's mind, so I'm asking for a beginner's ear from all of you. All right, so this is a poem. I started writing poetry just really in June. And I had sort of a health crisis that somehow drove me to write poetry. It just kept on coming up, and I kept on having to write it. So therapeutic. So I'll go ahead and just say that much, and then start with my first one. This one's called The Year of the Snake. I guess I had to shed my skin. There it was, lying next to me. Like a companion I'd not been aware needed casting off. This year I had no choice but to let it go. But why? I'd just been admiring the sheen of my old scales, the comfort of finally feeling the lining fit right, the larger patterns, not necessarily the small ones, tailored just for me, that I'd finally worn with pride and ease. Hail, flowing, my mortality, and now a gateway. The runes warned me it would be so. But what is this gateway? What is this new skin I inhabit? It feels raw, unfamiliar, with seams out of place. When I move, I come up against its ill-fitting couture. I may end up splitting all the threads. Or is it a soft, wielding, stretchy silk that only needs the wearer to reveal its new properties? Am I asked to wear it with reverence as I pass through this unnamed gate? So this health crisis was, let's just say, life-threatening. So this poem, I'm just going to read as is. I'd love to, well, I would like to get feedback because being new to this. So, but this one, I wanted to get feedback on, you know, is the reference clear or not? You know, that kind of thing. So anyway, this one's called Leave Takings. An empty corner, the open spaces of a vacated room, the pull of an unencumbered draft, out the door to nascent destination of the here and now of head and heart. I had to leave it at the doorframe, the sweet stickiness of my need to control, to have my body harnessed and released as I wish, to shape it by swim strokes and kicks of strong defiance, to feed it with the nutrition afforded privilege and prudence, and the lingering hope of ever doing one last handspring on the beach. The thrill and drama of the daily chase, to mother, to educate, to research, to advocate, like interlocking joists on an open plain, were blown open wide, exposed to sacred sky. The past and future of earthbound naggings seem now so trite, what once was my centerpiece. Thunder came through here, like this week's news. Tornadoes taunted, then claimed the lives of many, both dead and alive. My head found some of its own, blooming in the shadows. Shaken, not just stirred, my flight landed in ICU, interred. My daughter's fragile world turned on its side. Oh, how I wish to have spared her this. And oh, how grateful to have spared her that one last morning kiss goodbye. So, here's a little more therapy. All right. Morning glory rose. I reached skyward and plucked you with my steely red shears, your pink puff showering down to my waiting clutch. You sit now in my east-lit window, radiant with the offering of this splendid sunlit morning, Like the thinly veiled tissues of my recuperating heart, your layers peel back, revealing your budded core. Petals like porcelain walls, once held so closely around mine. We were tightly wound things, you and I, waiting for the warmth of time and trial to open our hearts and let the morning's glory shine through. And yeah, I think is the 5 minutes up? Well, okay. Sorry. Blah, blah, blah.
Thank you very, very much. And you must come back. Those were excellent poems. When did you say you started writing? Wow, I'm impressed. Alrighty, up next we have someone. Soul Food has some popular winter drinks. Who would have guessed? Soul Food cider is apparently quite popular with our next reader. Ida Freilinger. Come on up, Ida.
That's a big step. Not too big, but big enough. I usually write haiku, tanka, and lately I used to write, oh, yay, yay, we have a friend in there. This? Oh, that, okay. Okay. Well, that's okay. You can leave it up. So I'd like to read a few that I put into a little book. Some of these have been published, some of them haven't. But the book is called Harbor. The little tiny book is called Harbor, and someone planted a pink rose by the Marina Gate. Water shimmer. Whirlpool by the water's edge, tracing a rumor. Origami sailboat, I tuck its tab back under the table runner. Windblown sea, hint of a tsunami. A seagull behind the dock fence stares back at us. Island fog, the vague shadow of high rises. Isolated in the lighthouse tower, its keeper. Seaside trail, alone except for wheels from a gray jay. Tornado ahead, a river plunges into the sea. After the beach walk, I see a maple log. I sit on the rotting log and look around. Strewn mustard flowers. Bayside nature walk. Even the mountains are cloaked in oyster. Summer morning brunch. Seagulls fly from one hotel sill to another.
Thank you, Ida. Our next reader's favorite winter beverage is coffee, which I think will do for most people. And our next reader is Chris Shoemaker. Welcome, Chris.
No. Yeah, coffee's kind of uncreative. I just didn't know what to put, man.
It works.
It works, right? I wrote this today. I saw this was happening, so I decided to write a poem. The moment arises when expectations are low and the sights are silent. What we want is this expectation for security. If you become too secure, you can't let the unexpected come, inspire you, and fulfill you. It can blind you from experiencing an undreamt dream and an unsung song. So gather yourself in and feel out. The path you walk changes throughout. You may see far when you look in the shadow of light, but then light becomes the shadow of its own night. It may be taught that we need to find heaven on earth, though it's about releasing heaven by living on earth. We have all the power to move the unseeable sense of ancient worlds which reflect an immense. As I speak these words, they quickly become past. Though don't listen but feel it, it makes the moment last. Here you sit in a moment collected, planned years ago as you selected. So when you walk away and you naturally reflect, don't forget that being within you which bounds you and me to connect. I don't really name my poems, but I mean, if I were to George. Actually, if I wasn't to name this, it would be called Saint Christopher. Far away, close behind, settle close, open mind. Beauty regards spaces between her early wind and cotton seams. Narrow road, mountains west, timeless travel, remembers best. Our pictures, broken frames, past conflicts, future gains. Timber breath, river mist, dense city coexist, all which fade into the moonlight beach, dazzling in the coral turtle's Hawaiian breath, and fall into the universe's waking hours. He, Saint Christopher, not only protects thee, but kisses me and named me. This is my last one. I once had many ways to sing a song, and the smell of this old prairie is so strong. If the mountainside could have a scent, it would be of us and the time we spent. You were once here within this fleeting house. The woodwind flute once brought me a spouse. A snowy cabin, long before my days linger, as the crease stays black on my finger. If I let the depth between us die, I might as well stay till it will qualify. But your backdoor step was our last goodbye. It's amazing to think pain can later beautify. Even though we could go about things impulsive and quick, our hearts both realize our love wasn't made to stick. So gather your cards and draw them in. Your memory will remain in my depth within. There's so many things I wish to say to you, but all the thoughts lead to one soft word, and that's thanks. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chris. I do hope you will come back sometime. Read for us again. Alrighty, up next. I'll adjust that just so it can be readjusted in a moment. Up next, someone who likes eggnog with lots of nog, Marge Manwaring.
All right. So how does this thing get? Oops. All right, like that? Yeah, it's good. Thank you, Michael. So Janae's poem, well, actually, there were a couple of poems that I jotted down notes, and she mentioned decay and subterranean worlds. And so I thought I'd read this poem that touches on those subjects. I was actually thinking about what would happen if mushrooms and bacteria and maggots and all those kinds of things stopped doing the work that they're supposed to do, and came up with this poem called Refusal. Sad, this blade of grass, the way the wind doubles it over. The beetle world below burdened too. It's always been about decay, but there had been a kind of gallows humor. Now something's off kilter, more than the usual workaday ennui, this endless cycle, this samsara. Toward Earth's core, earthworms tunnel down and linger. Mycelia cease their creeping. Mushrooms no longer multiply, won't release their spores, and green bottle flies buzz away from the corpse. If you listen closely, carried on the sour breeze, the microcosm's heavy sigh. And then just one more. This one's called You Imagine Laura from the Glass Menagerie. You imagine Laura from the glass menagerie placing a turquoise elephant, just so, between giraffe and gazelle. Through the sitting room window, a far-off mountain in the moonrise, or the shadow of a gentleman caller. When the doorbell rings, her favorite tiger falls from his velvet perch. She'll love him more for his brokenness. In the lamp's dim light, perhaps a limp won't be noticed, or the urge to arrange the animals according to height. The evening's kiss is a curio cabinet, glass doors not quite clicking shut. Thank you.
Thank you, Marge. Our next reader is Bob Bauer, who says, I don't have a favorite winter beverage. I'm on a non-liquid diet. So please welcome Bob.
Okay, when I was reminded there was going to be, what am I supposed to do? Bring this up? You can hear me. Huh? No, this is good right here. Okay. This is my wife, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that was the poem. Thank you. No. So when I heard this was going to be, this reading, I pulled this off the shelf because I have one poem published and my daughter has 287, okay? So. I've been involved in the grief field. I teach a death course. I've been teaching it for more than 30 years and have, as I told my students today, have looked into the eyes of thousands of people who've experienced death. So this is called Grief Makes a Promise. I feel like I'm going crazy. Grief speaks. Come, sit down, let's talk. Not you, leave me alone. You have moved into my life and you won't leave. Everywhere I look, there you are, staring me in the face, filling my life with pain. Grief responds, I know, but just hear me out, okay? I'm tired of listening to you, tired of feeling so many things, confused, sad, hopeless, angry, anxious, guilty, helpless. Grief, firmly. You're supposed to have feelings. You're human. Look, you don't understand. Someone I care for very much has died, and it hurts. It hurts so badly I can't stand it. Sometimes I don't even want to be here anymore. Grief, comforting. I hear you. But if you never loved, you'd never grieve. What you feel is normal. No, it's not. Everyone says they say I'm grieving too much. They're worried about me. They say that it's time to move on. They say to me, it's time to put closure on this. It's time to heal, accept, recover, and get over it. Grief softly. And you can't. Well, no. Not like they want me to. I can't put closure on my love. My love did not die. I can't wake up one day and suddenly exclaim, I'm healed. I'll never completely heal. I certainly will not accept or recover from this death, and I will never get over it as if my grief is a problem that can be fixed. Grief whispers, you don't have to. What do you mean? Grief takes a seat. Everyone grieves differently, and you have the right to grieve however you're going to grieve. You had a unique relationship with your loved one, a relationship that no one can fully understand. So what am I supposed to do? Grief moving closer. 5 things. First, grieve. Feel your grief. That's why I'm in your life, so you can begin to feel again, even though you don't like what you feel. Second, talk it out with people who are willing to listen and not judge you. Find a way to get all those bottled up feelings so they don't go around and around with no place to go. Find those people who will really listen. They're out there. Do it. Third, realize that everyone grieves differently. Respect this. Fourth, live. Even though at times you don't feel like putting one foot in front of the other, your job is to live your life, despite all the changes you've gone through, despite all the pain. And fifth, talk about your loved one. Say his name or her name. Take your loved one's story. Tell your loved one's story. This person lived a life. Find people who will listen to the stories and who will in turn listen to you about their stories of your loved one. Your love for this person will never go away. You will always carry it in your heart. Grief, offering a handshake. And finally, I make you a promise. Shaking hands. You, grief, are making me a promise? Yes, my promise to you is, as terrible as you feel now, you will not feel this way forever. And there will be times that you will laugh, times where your confusion, your sadness, hopelessness, your anger, anxiety, guilt, helplessness, isolation, emptiness, loneliness, exhaustion, and fear will not feel so intense. Don't get me wrong, you will never forget your loved one. And feeling less grief does not mean you are forgetting this person. Now, I want you to say your loved one's name. Go ahead, say it. It's a precious name. Take the memories, put them in your heart, feel them there, and know that your loved one will always be safely in your heart. Always. I promise. And at the bottom here it says, special thanks to Janae Bauer, my daughter, for her editorial input. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. That was a poem I needed to hear. Yesterday, I have a second cousin whose daughter died yesterday, and on her Facebook page, I don't know what to say to her, and hearing that kind of helps, I think. So I thank you, and I hope that helps with other people too. One announcement. The Redmond Association of Spoken Words monthly reading is tomorrow night. So Peter Ludwin is the featured poet, so if you can head over to the Old Redmond Schoolhouse Community Center tomorrow night for that reading. It's a week earlier than normal so that it's not competing with Black Friday. So please come to that. And then I think on December 6th, I have to look this up, RASP is having its annual party, and probably there will be some poetry-related events, so please come to that also at the Old Redmond, the Schoolhouse Community Center. Has anybody written a sentence that you've never said to a cop? Okay. Come on up. Sherry. Okay. Say them where you're, just stand up where you are and tell us your sentence. Okay, thank you. Someone else. Go ahead.
I don't remember ever getting a ticket, but this is what I wouldn't say. He'd come to me to the window and he'd say, "Ma'am, I think you were speeding a little bit." And I thought, "Oh, sorry. You're kind of cute. You want to go out?"
That'll work.
He never gave me a ticket again.
Excellent.
Well, here's what I never said to a cop. This is the first speeding ticket that I've gotten in 42 years. And that would be true.
More fortunate than me. It's been about 12 years.
And then along the lines of yours, I love how your uniform fits you with a good
Anyone else? Well, thank you for giving that a try. I'll like to share some things of mine. And this piece is not really a poem, but you can take it how you will. Any of you read or heard of the book, The Lives of the Poets? It's a biography of some well-known poets. And this is a riff on that with the emphasis on true, the true lives of American poets. And I'll read you part one of this collection, and I will tell you that at least one of these stories is true. Stanley Kunitz would never miss a monster truck rally. E. E. Cummings adored macaroni and cheese. Theodore Retke used only white towels. T.S. Eliot collected Kewpie dolls. Robert Frost once cut off another man's finger. Emily Dickinson had a love slave. Sid Corman once held the record for the world's largest ball of twine. Lorene Nidecker was allergic to peanuts. Ezra Pound had a crochet habit. Robinson Jeffers was secretly afraid of water. Carl Sandburg hired an illegal alien housekeeper. Randall Jarrell used to think his nose was too big. William Carlos Williams made a small fortune when he sold his wheelbarrow collection. Charles Olson used to have a serious stutter. Sylvia Plath owned stock in Sears. Denise Levertov was once arrested for vagrancy. Walt Whitman was a closet guitarist. Stephen Crane was addicted to radio. Vachel Lindsay never got a driver's license. Wallace Stevens' wife posed for the Liberty Dime. Hilda Doolittle could talk to animals too. Marianne Moore liked to collect stuffed animals. Ogden Nash was a virgin. Archibald MacLeish was an expert at nunchucks. Kenneth Rexroth ate kumquats for breakfast every Sunday. Jack Kerouac once spotted a forest fire. Allen Ginsberg was frightened of Polaroid cameras. Elizabeth Bishop filed 3 patents with the U.S. Patent Office. Robert Creeley knew lots of card tricks. Rudyard Kipling never ate apples. And Billy Collins does his own laundry. Any guesses on which are true?
What did Emily say?
Emily Dickinson had a love slave. Okay. Any guesses which ones might be true? Kerouac. I don't know that. I made that up, but he probably is true because he did that for a while as on a fire watch. That might be true, but I don't know. But there's one that I know is true. No, it's not the love slave one, but that would be really fun. At least one is true. Once cut off a man's finger. That is not true to my knowledge. Any other ideas? Never ate apples. I made that one up, so I don't know. So I may have made up things that are actually true. The one that I know is true, or at least one, is that Wallace Stevens' wife posed for the Liberty Dime. So there you go. All right. Another poem. Do any of you remember what happened in December 1980? I think it was December 8. Yeah. That day in December 1980, listening to the radio when the news comes, studying in my bedroom when the DJ interrupts, smack in the middle of a favorite song. After the news bulletin, the radio falls silent. Dead air. Years later, I'd visit strawberry fields in Central Park and remember that bedroom where the world tilted just a little on its axis. Dead air. Then the song begins. Imagine. I have the urge to sing along. Give peace a chance. Starting over. Then mind games. Number 9 dream. Happy Xmas, war is over. Instant karma. Borrowed time. Lennon for the 80s, like Hendrix and Cobain before and after for their decades of decadence. The songs play on, and I keep listening till deep into the night, a candle lit, flickering. Some people change the world. Some people change the light. Thank you. And I do have more True Lives of American Poets, but I think I'll stop there. And I'll save those for another night. Thank you again to Anne and Janae for reading tonight. And thank you to all of you for coming and sharing your work or listening in the audience. And we'll see you 1 week early next month, next Soul Food. And of course, yes, how could I forget? Thank you to Soul Food Books for having us here. Good night.